That brings us to our item number 12, which is public participation. And I'd like to say that the board, this is from our policy, the board encourages the citizens of the community to appear and bring before the board any matter directed toward the improvement of the school system and the agenda of the board. This policy provides for any individual or group to be heard on a subject pertaining to the policies or administration of the school system. And from our printed agenda tonight, we always welcome and encourage public participation. We ask that you sign up ahead of time, which all of you have done that are going to speak tonight. You'll be limited to 3 minutes, which Dr. Harris will keep time and give you a card that tells you when that ends. But questions asked during public participation we handle in accordance with board policy BEDH. So with that, I will tell you that we have 2 people signed up, and the first speaker tonight is Mr. Mark Ebert. Mr. Ebert.
Hello, I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you guys. I have students, children that are in the district today, and my wife's actually a teacher within the school district as well. In 2017, I presented enrollment data to this board to make the case that we do not have an enrollment crisis and that we do not need an additional elementary school. Today, I have additional information that supports this position. This data is from the district and includes school capacities and enrollment data over the last 10 years. I think the findings are very interesting. You guys have this data available. It's actually your data, and I've actually printed copies in case anybody in the audience would like some. There are 12 elementary schools in District 5. Today, 11 of those 12 are below 85% capacity. 7 of those elementary schools are below 72% capacity, and 3 of those are below 57% capacity. So let's take a look at the historical numbers. In 2009, the total district capacity for all 12 schools was 9,000 students. The district showed total elementary enrollment of 7173, or 80% capacity. In 2018, the district capacity for all 12 schools was 9236. The district showed total elementary enrollment of 6812, or 74% capacity. That means capacity has actually gone down. We have actually increased the overall capacity by 236 students, while enrollment has dropped by 361 students. Now, some of this was impacted by the change with the intermediate schools. There's no doubt about that. Regardless, overall capacity is up and enrollment is down. There is no enrollment crisis in District 5. There is no need for an additional elementary school. Now, everybody's wondering, what are we going to do about Lake Murray? That has been the key in all of this. Lake Murray today is 113% to capacity. When you review the data, you will find that Lake Murray was also above capacity in 2009 at 107%. Lake Murray has had a capacity issue for the last 10 years. This is an issue that leadership could have easily addressed through simple rezoning. Instead, we've opted to spend millions of dollars to build a new school in an area that makes little sense. The district's own numbers prove that we do not have an enrollment crisis, that we do not need a new school. This process has shown that our board has been negligent and opted for an easy solution of spending taxpayer dollars to benefit developers. I call for this board to suspend additional building projects until all options, including rezoning, are thoroughly explored and studied. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ebert. Next speaker we have is Julie Booth. Ms. Booth.
Dr. Melton and members of the Board of Trustees. My name is Julie Booth, and I live at 600 Wisteria Key Place in Chapin. I appreciate the opportunity to voice my concerns tonight. I have written to each of you about this topic, and I wanted to take the time to speak in person. I am here because of the decision you made to place an enrollment freeze at Chapin Elementary School. It may be your perception that only a few people in the community care about this. Quite the contrary is true. However, due to issues that community members have expressed concern about before and felt they were not heard, many are not speaking up. There is a sense of apathy in our community, which is never a positive outcome. You are an autonomous board with little to no oversight. Most of you do not live in the Chapin area, so you feel this won't affect you personally or your constituents. We are all your constituents, since this 7-person board makes decisions that affect us all. Even though, as Mr. White stated last week, this board runs by the majority, it is quite a disservice to discount the constituents of the minority. We, as a community, have to provide oversight and perspective. There are side effects to this freeze that you may not have considered. There is the real estate side effect: longer time on market, less potential buyers, lower sales price, because proximity and reputation of schools is a huge factor when purchasing a home. There is also the neighborhood school side effect. The former superintendent touted neighborhood schools as the big reason for elementary school number 13. So in the meantime, we are going to transport children as young as 5 years old to schools 15 to 20 miles from their homes. Neighbors will go to different schools. This is not a neighborhood school concept at all, even if only temporary. I urge you to reconsider. The high enrollment numbers at Chapin Elementary are a direct result of the students you moved there after the freeze at Lake Murray Elementary. There are schools towards the middle of the school district which are underutilized, as Mr. Ebert spelled out. River Springs, Dutch Fork, and Oak Point are well under capacity. Just because redrawing attendance lines is politically unpopular doesn't mean you cannot do it. You have to do it. It's your job. As for the statements last week that the decision to move funds from the 2008 referendum elementary school project to projects at Dutch Fork High and Irmo High was made due to flat enrollment numbers, that argument really does not hold water. There were already portables at both Chapin Elementary and Lake Murray Elementary at that time. If portables are such an unsuitable choice, every effort should have been made to honor the public's trust and follow through with the elementary school that was in the 2008 referendum. We would not be having any of these discussions had that taken place. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Booth. That concludes our public participation and takes us to item number 13, which is action as necessary or appropriate on matters discussed in executive session.